Okay. In the 2009 film Zombieland, it states that the first rule of surviving the zombie apocalypse is cardio, and if there's one thing that I see every day, it's people running. One would think that this massive preoccupation with running was in preparation for the inevitable uprising of the undead. I mean, I myself like to imagine a horde of zombies chasing me whenever I exercise, because fitness is important to survival. How many zombie movies have you seen where the protagonist was fat? There are none. There are, however, a lot of fat zombies, like this guy. There we go. Hal obviously didn't use his yoga membership, and Bob here just couldn't run fast enough when he was human. Of course, the thin zombies exist as well, because brain parasites such as the rage virus and 28 Days Later don't discriminate. Yet, the metaphor of fat people and zombies, it's not a novel metaphor, is it? For example, Dr. William Campbell Douglas, who is an author, blogger, and he's been practicing medicine for 40 years, claimed that there is a direct causal link between obesity and dementia, and he cited a Boston University study that measured levels of body fat versus brain volume. He goes as far as saying, fat people have little brains. Is that really surprising? You'd have to be missing some brain volume anyway to let yourself get that big and sloppy in the first place. So he goes on to say that he hopes we've been brushing up on our zombie skills because we're about to be overrun with a lot of fat dementia patients that are going to want to eat everything. And now, I don't mean to prove or disprove the credibility of this doctor, but what I want to draw attention to is his language. He says that fat people are big and sloppy. He claims through his words that fat people choose to have the bodies they have. He claims that there is a direct correlation between physical appearance and inherent intelligence, that brains and beauty actually do go hand in hand. Now, your words have power. Don't forget that ever. We'll never exactly know how words affect us completely because some words stick with you forever. For example, the first time a boy called me fat, I was 7 years old. In my second grade class, I was told that Brian would never date me because I was too fat for him. And this wasn't the last time someone would call me fat either. When I dated one boy, he offhandedly mentioned that his mom thought I was too fat to date him. Another boyfriend thought he was complimenting me when he said, "You know, you're actually in nice shape," as if size made that an impossibility. When I was 13, I remember reading magazine articles that said, "You shouldn't diet until you're fully finished growing." And I couldn't wait until I was old enough to go to bed hungry, be healthy, to starve myself, all of those things that go along with dieting. Oprah said, "Sign a contract to swear to shed those extra pounds," and I believed Oprah. Around this time, when I was 13, reality television began to fill up the primetime TV slots, and extreme makeover shows like The Swan began to inspire fantasies of one day having liposuction or fake boobs, and to be honest, I still have those fantasies sometimes. Now, my parents flip-flopped between these diets, the Atkins diet, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, gym memberships, and I realized that losing weight became so important to the people surrounding me, increasingly important as I got older, because these newspapers, magazines, the television, Oprah, and very reputable statistics started sounding the alarms of the obesity epidemic. The media claims that the people in this room, our generation, will be the first ever to live a shorter lifespan than our parents unless we drastically change our diet and exercise. Or so they tell us. So my parents did all these diets. I tried the cosmopolitan prom body torture routine. Obviously, it didn't work. And none of it worked. You flip-flop, you go back and forth. So I moved on in life, and at the age of 14, I realized, okay, well, I could diet, or I could just be who I am. But the idea of dieting was still in the back of my head because at 14, I had just unleashed myself onto the greater market of high school dating. So it was now imperative that I lose weight lest I die of diabetes or embarrassment. I was a big kid. There was concern for my health. So at the age of 8, I was called the friendly giant by my sister. I was, at 8 years old, over 5 feet tall and more than 100 pounds, let me tell you. And it was cause for concern. I was tested for diabetes. I went through all these testings because I could have had a thyroid disorder. I could have had a superhuman alien chromosome. Who knew? But I was, in fact, just a big, healthy kid. And looking back, it's not as if I didn't join the basketball team. It's not as if I didn't join the volleyball team or join cross country, even though I consistently came in last. I was just a big, healthy kid. So I wonder, we talk about health and numbers as if that constitutes everything it takes to be healthy. And I believe that in an ideal world, what if we could measure health in terms of happiness and ideals? What if we could measure our energy? Unfortunately, healthy can't be measured that way because energy doesn't have a form of calibration. We can't measure happiness except in terms of experience. And unfortunately, the mind forgets these small details like feelings and energies from day to day. The language surrounding fat in our society is diseased. It's like the festering flesh of zombies. Our public health, our health, used to occupy this private sphere. We believed that health was nobody else's business except for our own. And now today, our health has moved into the public sphere. You do a public service by staying thin. And people who do lose weight are raised up to this pedestal of glorification because people say, look how pretty they are, look how much happier they are. We often forget that fat is just a symptom and not a disease, yet we talk about it as if it is. We forget that fat is important, necessary to our survival and our healthy bodies. Fat is not the enemy. Fat's great. Fat is fun to play with. Yet we often forget these things because we're taught to look at it a different way. So I'm a BFA student. I'm studying to get my degree in costume design, and I'm a sometimes actor. So as a sometimes actor and a costume designer, I'm constantly aware of the word marketability. Now, you can't make art if nobody's buying it. And unfortunately, our audience already knows exactly what it wants. There's this joke in community theater that if you're overweight, you're constantly typecast as the mother, the matron, or the hag. It's because we expect to see these archetypal characters as rotund and villainous. If you see a fat Disney character, they're never the protagonist. They're usually the bumbling lackey or the giant sea squid. So I can attest to this joke personally, as I've played the mother, Queen Agravain, in Once Upon a Mattress. I've played the matron, Marilla Cuthbert, Anne of Green Gables, and I've also played the hag, Ebenezer Scrooge. Yes, I did. So one time, my father asked me, why don't you ever play the princess? We expect a certain look in our protagonists, and it's sometimes very difficult to push the boundaries of what the audience will accept as normal. In the film Misrepresentation, it's a 2011 documentary that just came out, it states, "You can't be what you can't see," and this is especially true of fat bodies. Can a fat woman be sexy? Can a fat woman date a thin man without it being a fetish? Can a fat woman play the love interest without it being a comedy as it's played in Shallow Hal? The stories we tell determine what we consider normal and acceptable in our society. And what we're just beginning to realize is how narrow that range of normal is and how many people are falling outside of that narrow range, how many people are getting left behind. So, in a film studies class, my professor once asked me, "What makes a person photogenic?" And none of us could answer why beauty on the screen doesn't always equate to beauty in real life. So his answer was angles. And if you look back at any of the Golden Age Hollywood starlets, they all have these high cheekbones and striking features. And it makes you realize that the medium of film is light. You see that these high cheekbones and striking features create shadow and definition and contrast, and they catch the light in such a way that it makes it easier to see that the camera can put on 10 pounds, as they say. It makes it easier to see how a healthy woman can appear fat on screen and how an emaciated woman can seem normal as a model or actor. It's pictures like these that make me think the zombie metaphor doesn't swing both ways. So, what if even the bones in your body are too big or too small? What if even after you've molded all of the malleable parts of your body, you're still not the right shape? It worries me a lot that people take the images presented by the media as an absolute form of beauty. It worries me that people don't question why they find a certain body attractive. I see so many people stumbling towards pretty things mindlessly that it makes me wonder if the zombie apocalypse hasn't already happened and we were too busy tweeting about parties and potential boyfriends to even notice. Margaret Cho once said, "If you don't have self-esteem, you will hesitate to do anything in life. You'll hesitate to go for the job you really want to go for. You'll hesitate to ask for a raise. You'll hesitate to vote, and you'll hesitate to dream." Why, after so many battles have been fought and won on the plane of human rights, do we still attack each other on the shapes of our bodies? I don't see how that's different from being disgusted by the color of a body. Why are we struck with shame when we see an imperfect body, a body with a roll of fat, or a body with a disability, a homeless person? We've been taught to look away, and we've been taught to act without compassion. And by doing this, by creating biases and shunning people who are unlike ourselves, we cut off the amount of human connections that we can make in this life. The world is changing much faster than I can read a newspaper. I believe that the ideas that we've grown up with and been taught by our parents and the walls that uphold those ideas are crumbling around our ears. You just have to look at the news to see that. So, why do we allow ourselves to spend so much time staring into mirrors, worrying about the way we look or worrying about our health, well, worrying about our appearance and calling it health? Why do we allow some of the most intelligent people this world has ever seen to stay silent because they don't have the confidence to speak? This is the world we're inheriting, and I believe that we need all the help we can get. So, remember, fat is not the enemy. Remember that your words have power. Age with grace. Enjoy the food you eat. And remember that no matter what you look like, it is a human right to have the freedom to love your body. And lastly, and most importantly, remember that if the zombie looks dead, you always double tap.